There are certain truths about life that most people never see until it's too late. In this video, we'll confront the harsh realities that we all need to face about the people we should avoid helping if we are to protect our own peace, strength, and purpose. These are the lessons no one else will tell you, but they are the very lessons that could change everything. If you're tired of the noise and ready for clarity, if you're seeking wisdom that cuts through the illusions of everyday life, then you're in the right place. Subscribe now and join a community committed to mastering self-control, inner peace, and fortitude. Let's walk this path together. Hit that like button and subscribe, because here, we don't just talk about change, we embody it. We are often told that helping others is a moral imperative, a duty we owe to society and to ourselves. But what if helping certain people only deepens their misery and traps us in their destructive patterns? What if, by aiding those who resist responsibility, we are actually undermining our own virtue and peace of mind? Stoicism teaches us that not all help is noble, and not all people are ready to be saved. We must be discerning in our compassion, as blind assistance can weaken both the helper and the helped. Stoic wisdom, rooted in the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, reminds us that true aid must be aligned with reason, self-control, and the pursuit of virtue. Helping those who are unwilling to help themselves only encourages their self-destruction and, ultimately, taints our own character. 1. The willfully ignorant. The willfully ignorant are not simply uninformed, they actively resist learning, growth, and self-awareness. These individuals shun wisdom as if it were a burden, preferring the comfort of their ignorance over the discomfort of enlightenment. They may even scorn those who seek knowledge, dismissing wisdom as irrelevant to their lives. Marcus Aurelius captured this rejection of growth when he said, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." The willfully ignorant remain with the majority in their refusal to challenge their understanding of the world. Helping such individuals is like pouring water into a broken vessel. It does not fill, it leaks. They do not reject wisdom out of inability, but out of choice. A true Stoic understands that life is a constant pursuit of self-improvement. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to be humble and accept correction. But the willfully ignorant choose to close their minds, fearing the implications of change. Their resistance is not due to lack of intelligence, but to a refusal to acknowledge their faults. In aiding them, we sacrifice our own peace and energy for someone who cannot appreciate or even comprehend the effort. Epictetus, a Stoic who championed the necessity of education and wisdom, warns that trying to teach those who do not wish to learn is futile. He states, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. The willfully ignorant believe they already possess all the knowledge they need. To engage with them is to chase the wind." We must focus our energy on those who are open to growth, who value wisdom and are willing to challenge their beliefs. To spend time on those who actively reject this path is to dishonor our own pursuit of virtue. Instead, we must let them face the consequences of their closed minds, for only through hardship will they perhaps seek the wisdom they once scorned. 2. The perpetual victim. The perpetual victim is trapped in a cycle of self-pity and external blame. They see themselves as helpless, as mere pawns in a world that constantly oppresses them. But this is a delusion, one that keeps them shackled to their circumstances. The Stoics, most notably Epictetus, emphasized that we are not victims of fate but masters of our responses. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. The perpetual victim, however, refuses this responsibility. They choose to wallow in their misfortunes, seeking sympathy rather than solutions. To help such a person is to pour into a bottomless pit. No matter how much you give, be it advice, resources, or emotional support, they will always find a way to remain oppressed. They do not seek your help to escape their problems, but to reinforce their identity as the downtrodden. Seneca warned against this mindset in letters to Lucilius, saying, Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. The perpetual victim, by contrast, has surrendered their power entirely to the whims of fate, and helping them only deepens their sense of powerlessness. Their suffering becomes a comfort, a familiar place where they can avoid the terrifying prospect of taking responsibility for their own lives. The more we attempt to rescue them, the more they will resist change, for to change means to lose the identity they've built around their victimhood. And thus we harm them by helping. The Stoics teach us that true strength lies in resilience, in the ability to rise despite adversity, but the perpetual victim chooses to sink deeper with every helping hand extended. Helping them again and again only feeds their delusion that they are powerless, reinforcing their belief that they need others to survive. Epictetus reminds us, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. We can best help the perpetual victim not by coddling their weakness, but by demonstrating strength, by showing them that life is about action, not excuses, by letting them see that true power lies in how we respond to hardship, not in avoiding it. We cannot force someone to rise from the depths of self-pity. They must choose to ascend on their own. Helping them when they refuse to help themselves is not compassion, it is enabling their stagnation. We owe it to ourselves and to them to step back, letting them face the consequences of their choices. Only then might they discover the strength that has always been within them. 3. The manipulator. The manipulator is perhaps the most dangerous of those we should not help, for they hide their true intentions behind a veil of weakness or kindness, preying on our empathy to achieve their own ends. They are masters of deception, using others as pawns to fulfill their desires, while presenting themselves as the ones in need. To aid them is to feed their cunning, making us complicit in their schemes. Stoicism teaches us to see through appearances and to judge others based on their character, not their words or the masks they wear. Seneca, in On Benefits, warns us of the perils of misplaced generosity. Benefits, when wrongly conferred, can do harm both to those who give and those who receive. By helping the manipulator, we enable their selfishness and perpetuate their exploitation of others. They do not seek assistance because they are truly in need, but because they have learned that manipulation is easier than honest effort. The manipulator's strength lies in their ability to play on the emotions of others. They know exactly how to appear vulnerable or helpless to evoke sympathy, all while plotting how to twist that sympathy to their advantage. Marcus Aurelius urged us to penetrate the surface and see what is really there beneath the manipulator's surface is a facade, masking a heart that seeks to control, not to grow. Helping them only fuels their sense of entitlement, confirming to them that they can continue using others to meet their needs without consequence. Seneca warned that to confer a benefit upon an ungrateful person is to waste it. The manipulator will never express genuine gratitude because they do not value the help, they only value the outcome they've extracted through deceit. True Stoic virtue requires us to act with discernment and integrity. Helping the manipulator undermines both. Instead, we must confront their deceit, not with hostility, but with firm resolve. We must refuse to be tools in their schemes, for by denying them the satisfaction of manipulation, we give them the opportunity, though they may not take it, to learn honesty and self-reliance. To aid those who seek to manipulate is to turn a blind eye to vice. We must uphold virtue by recognizing when help is harmful and having the courage to withhold it. 4. The addicted. Addiction is one of the most tragic conditions we encounter in life, and it takes many forms: substances, behaviors, power, pleasure. To the addicted, the object of their obsession becomes their master. They have forsaken their own autonomy, allowing their desires to rule them. Stoicism, which champions self-mastery and freedom from destructive passions, regards such surrender to vice as the antithesis of true freedom. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The addicted, having lost that mastery, are enslaved by their cravings. But Stoic wisdom also teaches that to help someone, they must first desire to help themselves. The addicted often do not seek true recovery, only temporary relief or assistance that will allow them to continue their destructive patterns. They ask for aid not to regain their freedom, but to maintain the cycle of dependence. In giving them what they seek, we risk perpetuating their slavery to their desires. Seneca wrote in letters to Lucilius that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor the addicted crave more, endlessly chasing the fleeting highs that their obsession brings, yet never finding fulfillment. Helping them in ways that enable their addiction only deepens their poverty of spirit. To offer aid to an addict who refuses to confront their addiction is like feeding a fire in the hopes it will burn itself out. It only grows. It is not that Stoicism calls for a lack of compassion. On the contrary, we must be deeply compassionate, but our compassion must be guided by reason and virtue. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. A good man does not enable self-destruction, he seeks to lift others up. But sometimes the way to lift someone is to allow them to fall, so that they might find the strength to rise on their own. The addicted must confront the consequences of their choices before they can be truly helped. As Epictetus taught, difficulties show what men are. It is through struggle that the addicted may regain their autonomy, but only if they choose to face their struggles head-on. We cannot fight their battles for them, nor can we pull them from the pit of addiction if they do not first grasp the edge. Helping them too soon, or in the wrong way, deprives them of the opportunity to build the resilience they need to break free. In our aid, we must prioritize what is truly beneficial, not just what seems compassionate on the surface. The addict who refuses to face their demons must be allowed to encounter the consequences of their choices. Only then can they begin the journey toward self-mastery, toward the freedom that Stoicism so dearly values. 5. The unwilling learner. The unwilling learner is a soul closed off from growth, not because they lack the ability, but because they lack the will. They resist education, shun self-improvement, and treat wisdom as a threat to their comfortable ignorance. This refusal to grow is not a passive condition, it is an active rejection of the path toward virtue and self-control, the very foundation of Stoicism. To a Stoic, life is a continuous journey of learning and evolving. As Marcus Aurelius stated in Meditations, "If anyone can prove and show to me that I think and act in error, I will gladly change, for it is the truth I seek." And the truth never harmed anyone. The unwilling learner, however, fears this very truth, for it challenges their stagnant worldview. To offer help to such individuals is to battle against their resistance. They do not seek knowledge, nor are they grateful for it when given. They see learning as an imposition rather than a liberation. Seneca, in his letter to Lucilius, reminded us that men learn while they teach, but the unwilling learner neither teaches nor learns, for they are content with the shallow knowledge they have, fearing the depth of true understanding. Trying to help such a person is like trying to fill a cup that has a lid on it. No matter how much wisdom you pour, it will not reach them. They cling to their old ways and beliefs, dismissing new ideas as irrelevant or uncomfortable. And in doing so, they shut the door on growth. The true Stoic, however, thrives on continuous improvement, understanding that the only thing I know is that I know nothing, as Socrates famously admitted. But the unwilling learner takes no such humble approach. They believe they already know enough, and this pride in their limited knowledge blocks any further advancement. By helping them, we reinforce their comfort in ignorance. We waste our energy and wisdom on someone who is not ready to accept it. In Stoicism, we are taught to focus our efforts where they can bring about real change. Epictetus said, "It is impossible to teach a man what he thinks he already knows. We cannot force someone to learn. Until they are willing to embrace growth, they must face the consequences of their intellectual stagnation." Letting them struggle with the limitations of their knowledge might one day awaken them to the value of learning. but until that moment comes, we must withhold our efforts. 6. The dishonest. Dishonesty is a fundamental betrayal of the Stoic path. A Stoic seeks truth above all, for truth is the foundation of a virtuous life. The dishonest, however, live by lies whether to others or to themselves. They manipulate reality to suit their desires, bending facts and morality to achieve their ends. This constant dishonesty corrodes their soul, distancing them from the virtue of integrity that Stoicism demands. Seneca once wrote, "To live a life of honesty and integrity is to live in harmony with nature, the dishonest person, by contrast, lives in disharmony with both themselves and the world around them. They choose the fleeting gains of deceit over the enduring strength of truth." To help the dishonest is to risk becoming entangled in their web of lies. They will not use your aid for noble purposes, but rather to further their deception. Even when they appear to be seeking genuine assistance, their motives are suspect. Marcus Aurelius, in his Reflections, emphasized the importance of sincerity and truth, reminding himself daily, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. The dishonest person, through repeated falsehoods, darkens their soul, staining it with the constant practice of deception." To help them is to risk staining your own soul as well. Their lies spread like poison, corrupting everything they touch, and by aiding them, we allow that corruption to continue. Epictetus taught us that we should always keep company only with those who improve you. The dishonest do the opposite. They degrade the integrity of those around them, dragging others into their dishonest practices. Whether by encouraging complicity or by twisting the good intentions of those who try to help, helping them without demanding accountability only enables their continued dishonesty. We are called to act with wisdom, not with blind compassion. Helping a dishonest person means giving them more tools for their deception. They will take your kindness and twist it, using it as fuel for more lies, more manipulations. By refusing to help them, we force them to face the consequences of their deceit. Only when they confront the harm they cause, to both themselves and others, will they have a chance to change. As Epictetus reminds us, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The dishonest person must be left to face the fallout of their lies. Only then can they begin to rebuild their character, should they choose to do so. Helping the dishonest is not true kindness, it is enabling their falsehood. To uphold Stoic principles, we must place truth above all else and refuse to aid those who live by lies. In doing so, we not only preserve our own integrity, but we also give the dishonest a chance to confront their actions and, perhaps, seek a more virtuous path. 7. The envious. Envy is a destructive emotion that eats away at the soul. It drives individuals to focus on what others have, rather than what they can control within themselves. The envious person is never content, constantly comparing their life, their achievements, and their happiness to those around them. For the Stoic, this fixation on external circumstances is the root of suffering. As Epictetus taught, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The envious, however, live in reaction to others, allowing their inner peace to be disrupted by comparison and resentment. The problem with helping the envious is that no matter how much you give or how much assistance you offer, it will never be enough. Their envy blinds them to gratitude, because they are perpetually measuring their worth against others. Seneca, in On the Happy Life, reminds us that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is, poor. The envious are always poor in spirit, because they crave what others possess, never realizing that true wealth lies in mastering their own desires. When we help the envious, we inadvertently reinforce their belief that their happiness lies outside of themselves, in the things others possess. Instead of fostering contentment or self-growth, we feed their envy, encouraging them to continue measuring their worth by the standards of others. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, advised us to focus on our own path and to be content with what you have. The envious person refuses this contentment, believing that their worth is diminished by the success of others. Helping the envious not only traps them further in their destructive comparison, but it also drains us, for they will never appreciate what is given to them. Envy is insatiable. It consumes everything in its path, including the goodwill of those who try to help. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. To help the envious person, we would need to first teach them this essential lesson that their happiness and freedom lie not in external possessions or comparisons, but in mastering their own desires and thoughts. True Stoic wisdom reminds us that the only person we can control is ourselves. We must refuse to engage in the envious person's cycle of comparison, for doing so is an act of futility. The best we can do for them is to encourage them to look inward, to find their worth within themselves. Until they are ready to do so, helping them will only strengthen their misguided obsession with others. 8. The chronically negative. Negativity is a force that erodes the spirit. The chronically negative person is trapped in a mindset where they see the worst in everything. Life to them is a series of disappointments and failures, and they have trained themselves to focus solely on the hardships they face. For the Stoic, this is a profound misunderstanding of existence, for life is a mixture of both joy and struggle, and it is through our attitude and perspective that we shape our experience. Marcus Aurelius advised, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." But the chronically negative person has allowed their thoughts to become polluted, clouding their ability to see anything good. Helping someone who is chronically negative is a challenge because their worldview is resistant to change. Even when presented with solutions or encouragement, they quickly dismiss it, returning to their well-worn patterns of complaint and pessimism. Seneca, in Letters to Lucilius, remarked, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The chronically negative have made suffering their default state of mind, allowing their imagination to paint the world in dark and hopeless colors, regardless of the actual circumstances. To help them is often to waste energy, for their negativity acts like a shield, deflecting any attempt to bring light or hope into their lives. The Stoic understands that while we must strive to uplift others, we cannot force someone to see the world differently. Epictetus reminded us, it is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them. The chronically negative person has chosen to judge every event through the lens of despair, and until they decide to change that perspective, no amount of external help will make a lasting difference. Negativity is contagious. By constantly being exposed to the complaints and pessimism of a chronically negative person, we risk being drawn into their world of darkness. Marcus Aurelius urged us to be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. We must guard our own mindset and peace, resisting the pull of negativity. For if we engage too much with the chronically negative, we may find ourselves adopting their perspective. To help the chronically negative, we must first recognize that they are not yet ready to accept the help. They truly need a shift in mindset. Until they choose to challenge their own negativity, all external assistance will be in vain. Stoic wisdom teaches us to focus on what we can control, and we cannot control someone's outlook on life. We can offer words of encouragement or attempts to shift their perspective, but if they remain fixated on the negative, we must step back. Helping the chronically negative before they are willing to help themselves only reinforces their defeatist attitude. They begin to rely on others to pull them out of their despair, rather than developing the inner strength needed to face life's challenges. Seneca warned us against this type of reliance, stating, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." The chronically negative waste their life by focusing on what is wrong. And if we continue to offer help without demanding they change their perspective, we enable this wastefulness. We must guide them toward the realization that happiness and contentment come from within. Until they are ready to shift their perspective, it is best to refrain from trying to fix their problems for them. Only then, when they are willing to see life in a new light, can true help be offered. In Stoicism, we are called to act with purpose, wisdom, and self-restraint. We must be judicious in whom we help, for our aid is not a bottomless well. To help those who refuse responsibility, who manipulate, or who reject truth, is to harm them and ourselves. As Marcus Aurelius once said, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. We do not abandon these people out of malice, but out of recognition that they must face their own struggles. Only then can they rise if they choose to. Let us embrace the wisdom of the Stoics, striving for self-control and fortitude, overcoming destructive emotions that cloud our judgment. We help not out of pity, but out of virtue, and virtue demands discernment. This is the path to inner peace. This is the path we walk together.